Hey guys, it's Evan the Cat King here with another video, and this is kind of final thoughts on Disventure Camp All-Stars. And I wasn't sure how I was gonna do this video, and I think, you know what, let's just do like a random tier list talking about just like people, like what happened, what happened with people, with the people themselves, kind of go through how I think they were handled in this season, and that kind of will allow me to kind of talking about individual people will allow me to talk about their storylines and kind of just the general how they were handled and stuff. And yeah, I think that that's just how I'm gonna do this here. I've gotten a day to think about Disventure Camp All Stars, and now I'm just gonna let's friggin' do this. Here it is. Starting things off, we'll just start off just how the like tier list ended up placing them. And just the hosts were first. So Derek, what do I think? Oh, okay. Actually, let's just go through the tiers. Actually handled well. Those are the people who like I actually kind of like their storylines, and I think that they actually kind of improved upon the character. Straight up mediocre was they did all right with them. They just they kind of they I don't really have anything to complain about with the character. It was just kind of it was mediocre. They didn't ruin any. They didn't do anything bad with them, but they didn't really do anything good with them. What was the point? Just kind of what it says. What was the point of this character even being here? Kind of like it doesn't feel like they really needed to be here, and they just felt like they were completely random inclusions. Then missed potential. Obviously, they were. This is where I actually get to the point where it's like if they're in the missed potential or the other tier below it, I'm actually annoyed by their how they were handled. What was the point? Like, I'm not mad. I'm just kind of confused. But the others are. I'm either happy with them or I'm not mad. But so missed potential. I think that there was so much more that they could have done with them, and then worst possible handling. I think that that is strictly for like two, maybe three characters in particular. Um, for this whole thing. And but let's get into it. Derek. I think Derek was had a lot of missed potential here in this season. The host storyline, I feel like there could have been such a good, interesting story with the host, and they set up an interesting story with the whole like kind of Trebek, Krezik or what Krizik, I don't know, Darestol, I don't know, but the kind of love triangle type thing, as well as the Emily situation. I think there was a lot of potential there, but it just kind of felt like they just didn't give it enough development. And specifically from Derek's side, he did absolutely nothing in this season. We basically only got Trevor's point of view, and like the occasional Crystal, like how she saw things, but Derek is just kind of there. He was just kind of there, and yeah, so he had a lot of missed potential. Trevor, did they do Trevor well here? I mean, I think Trevor it doesn't fit in with the rest of the with Derek in having missed potential, because he was the main like driving force behind that whole storyline. So I think I'm gonna go with straight up mediocre. He like I wouldn't say he was handled well. I think he did his regular stuff, and then the introduction of Trevor and Derek, that whole ship was like, yay, good. I liked it, but in the end it didn't really get handled to the point where I can say that Trevor was actually handled well, but he was mediocre. I don't really have any complaints about handling. Um, so it's just mediocre. Crystal, honestly, what was the point? What was the point? Crystal did absolutely nothing in this season other than be the host. And I mean that's fine. That is completely fine, but they completely set it up for the whole storyline. She wasn't missed potential because we actually got something out of her a little bit, but at the same but it ultimately just was what was the point of it in the end? Like it like her whole storyline felt like it was just going nowhere, and then it just ends with like, hey, you know what? I think we should quit. Let's just give it back. Give the show back to Trevor and Derek, and it's like, okay, what was the point in going through all the stuff that we went through in order to reach that conclusion? Like it literally could have been something way more interesting, and like even just like having her like is sudden like honestly keep her like kind of character arc from season 2, have her realize that it's just it has like the show was like a bad thing, and the show kind of caused her to go in that direction, and like maybe even Derek could be a part of that and like pushing her towards being more like her dad again. And then she realized, okay, I just this show is just not healthy for me, and like just like I feel like that could have been a more interesting thing for her story and could have gotten us to the same result. And I just think what was the point in the end for Crystal? And yeah. Same with Oliver. What was the point? He didn't do anything. I think what was the point was a lot of characters that just did nothing. Oliver did absolutely nothing this season. He made random sporadic appearances that honestly told just basically telling Crystal, "You do your freaking job better." And like he kind of showed up more at the end, but he was just kind of there. He didn't even show up very often. He showed up very little, and it's just like this season would be exactly the same if he just never showed up at all and was just referenced a few times. So honestly, like Oliver didn't even need to be here. What was the point of him being here? And honestly, that's the same thing with Marcus and Nina. And honestly, there doesn't need to be a point for Marcus and Nina to be here. There isn't really a point needed. They're just here to be the bus driver and the creepy doll. But so honestly, their whole character is what is the point of their character entirely. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's just we'll finish those off. And then final host type character Emily, worst possible handling. I cannot believe how much they botched her character in the last 2 episodes. Specifically just episode 20. Like she was like a drama lady in like the first few episodes. She was trying to make money and like try to bring out the drama and things. It seemed like she was kind of genuinely trying. She was trying to do a good job and like trying to actually like get something out of this and find a way to make more money. And honestly, in this situation, I feel like that's what anybody would do. That if you're offered money to be offered a bit more money than in that situation, I feel like you're gonna do it. And that made sense for her character. And then she got fired, and then she becomes this vindictive person that wants to end the show, and like that's not even a bad thing, like entirely bad thing. It shouldn't have even been like to end the show. It should have been just to kind of cause Crystal to have to lose her job. Like that could have been a thing that gotten Crystal to leave the show. Was Emily like what the? But then they ended up her whole plan being basically try to kill everybody. She just released the scorpions and just actively tried to kill the final 3, and that's just what the frick. So Emily is going to be the first in worst possible handling. Ultimately, she just straight up she was so freaking ruined by the end of this season. And I don't know what the frick they're gonna do with her. I mean, now she's just gonna be in prison, I'm assuming, for the rest of the she's never returning, is she? But yeah. Now on to the actual characters. Ashley, on it. I'm with Ashley. It's floating between actually handled well and straight up mediocre. Because on one hand, she actually kind of got like, she actually got to do something for one. Like she got to do something this season, but at the same time, the thing that she was doing was being a therapist. And honestly, I think that she couldn't. I don't think that they really handled her well. Was brought in to be a supporting character, and there was absolutely not really a reason for it other than we need someone to give Jake these life lessons so then we can hopefully try to redeem him in the end of the season. That's all Ashley was here to do, and it was just a mediocre result in the end. I think Ashley, like, she was just here to be a supporting character, and that's it. And I just can't say that a supporting character is handled well unless there's an actual reason for it. Rosa Maria, I think, is a great example of a supporting character that actually is good because she tries to prop up everybody and not just one person like Ashley, who is just there to support Jake. Not even Allie. Like, she supported Allie a little bit, but it was just for Jake. But like Rosa Maria, she was actually there and she was supportive of everybody, and she actually had a in universe character reason for that, in that she is like a very motherly person. She was a like teen mom, so it's like she feels the need to like act like that. That she actually had a reason. Ashley's just, her reason is, I don't know, she's not as screwed up as so I think she was handled mediocre. Gabby, ultimately Gabby, I don't know if she was relatively handled well in this season. Ultimately, I think that she could have been handled better. Um, I think that I gotta go with mediocre at best because ultimately she kind of falls into a similar role as Ashley. She was ultimately a supporting character. She was there to prop up Gret and her storyline. And that was ultimately kind of what her role in this season was, I guess. Which I guess, yeah, it's mediocre. I don't have really any complaints around Gabby. She was the same character as before, and she actually did get to have some importance. She played a big role in the downfall of the villains alliance, I guess, and Gabby, if she had gotten a better elimination and actually had a good elimination, maybe she would have reached actually handled well. Speaking of actually handled well, Gret is instantly going there. No doubt about it. Gret is the best character in this whole season. She is actually handled well. Her whole thing of like trying to like kind of rebuild her confidence in if anything, like after, like that's more after Yule left, but the whole relationship with Yule is so good. Like it's such a good storyline, and it should have been the ultimate. She should have won this season, and I just may ultimately I think that if given the storylines that we got, she should have won. Do I think that like going into it she should have been the big like winner, like coming out of it, just like in general, just straight from the beginning she should have won? No, but given the stories that we got, she should have won. But yeah, Gret is actually handled well in Disventure Camp All Stars, and it's a shame that she didn't win. Like, that is annoying. Tom, honestly, what was the point? What was the point of Tom being here? I don't really understand what the freaking point was. I mean, I mean, obviously I know what the point was. It was to be another thing for Jake to be upset about. It was to make Jake upset, and that's something. Honestly, Jake would probably get upset over about a freaking, I don't know, a rock fell into his path one day. Jake is such a crybaby that he is not, like, you don't need Tom there to do it. What was the point in Tom being here? He didn't do anything. and like he literally did nothing. He did nothing. That's straight up what he did. Everything with Jake had nothing to do with him. He was just kind of being there and kind of being around Aiden, and that resulted in Jake being mad. He did nothing, and then that resulted in Jake being upset because he wasn't doing anything, or at least he wasn't doing the things that he wanted him to do, and that was talk to him. I don't like the fact that they ended up together in the end. I think that Tom and Jake is possibly the worst couple in all of Disventure Camp. Straight up. And what was the point in Tom being here? If anything, he might be missed potential in the end. You know what? Yeah, I'm switching it. He's just straight up missed potential. He could have been so much more, but like they turned him into the stupid doofus big cop stereotype. And that's not what he should have been. Jake, worst possible handling. I do not care if he got his happy ending in his redemption arc. I still don't think he's entirely redeemed. I am annoyed by he shouldn't have made it to the final two. He should have been an early boot, genuinely. I think that he should have been a pre-merge boot. Jake was just not handled well. And I think it may have been because he was like, I saw something that he maybe was originally going to be an early a pre-merge boot, but then like they realized, oh, there are actually people who like this character for some reason, and then they just kept him around because hey, that's gonna make them money. And obviously, you can't blame them for going where the money is, but ultimately Jake was a very poorly handled character, and it absolutely sucked. I absolutely hate Jake, and honestly, I'm happy that he lost. I'm happy that he didn't win. I'm not happy that Rhea won, but I'm happy that Jake lost. That's okay. Alec missed potential. Honestly, Alec had so much more potential. He was there to be a freaking like I guess another just pawn in Rhea. Like for Rhea. He was there to be the character that interacted with Rhea because they weren't going to do that with Connor because they instead wanted to go with the whole breakup rivalry angle with them. So they needed someone to actually have Rhea do something because maybe they were planning on having Rhea win from the beginning, or they at least weren't planning on eliminating her anytime soon. So they just gave that to Alec because there wasn't anybody else. Alec was just here to set up the Villains Alliance, talk with Rhea a bit, and then get upset when Connor found out that they ended up kissing. Like, Connor had so much missed potential, especially in that like later part of it. There could have been actually something of interest involved with like him and Rhea. That would have been a genuinely good, I think, like a genuinely interesting like couple. And I think that couple actually would have made more sense. But obviously, you can't have Rhea end up with Alec because she needs to end up alone. Even though I'm gonna make a whole video talking about the Rhea ending and how I think it is just straight up stupid. But Alec, he was such a missed potential, especially in the end when he just becomes a whiny little baby in the end, where he's just like, I'm still a good person. I'm not that bad, and then it's just like, bro, what happened to all your freaking confidence, dude? He was so bold in the beginning of the season, and then he just turns into a little whiny guy in the end. I still love Alec, but he had so much missed potential. Ellie, I don't know. What was the point? What was the point of Ellie here? I think that she didn't really have a point. She's not missed potential because I think that there wasn't really much potential in her with All Stars because she was already a finalist. And honestly, finalists should not have made it any far. All the finalists, in all reality, I think, in my opinion, should have been pre-merge boots. I think that it should have just been that way. where all the people who made it to the finale, or final three at least, in the previous seasons should have just been. They should have been pre-mergers, but they weren't. So Ellie, she didn't do very much while she was there. She set up Gabby to join the Villains Alliance. She joined the Villains Alliance, and she eliminated Lake. And what was the point of any of that? I don't know. I guess her like getting she didn't even she wasn't even part of getting Gabby into the Villains Alliance. She just got eliminated, and then that eventually led to Gabby joining the Villains Alliance. So honestly, she didn't do anything other than get rid of Lake, which what was the point in getting rid of Lake? Fiore, missed potential. Honestly, missed potential. I think she could fit in with what was the point, or just like I don't know, straight up mediocre. She was fun while she was there, but there was a lot of missed potential with her. I think that she should like, especially with the how the final finale went down. Like they kind of set her like up a little mini redemption arc in the last 3 episodes, and it's like okay, where did that come from? Where was all that where was that whole character arc? Was it all at the motel? There should have been that. She could. I hope that she returns in a later season and actually gets like a full blown like Heather World Tour redemption arc, and she becomes like the main hero and actually gets to win a season. I genuinely think that Fiore should be a future winner if they ever bring these characters back, which I hope they do. I hope they bring certain characters back. Obviously, but honestly, if they were to bring characters back, they'd end up bringing back Jake and Rhea, and that would annoy me. So honestly, they need to bring back Rhea so she can be a first boot. Like, if you're gonna bring back Rhea to be a first boot. But yeah, Miriam. She was mediocre. I can't complain. She wasn't. I don't say that she'd be missed potential. I think that she did exactly what she should have done in this season, and I mean I can't say she was handled well because she didn't do anything in the end, but she did what I think that she should have done, and that was be eliminated within the first 3 eliminations, and she still got to do she still got to do certain things. She still got to be like a bit of a badass grandma that we kind of liked. And yeah, so she goes in mediocre. She didn't do much, but I didn't really expect her to do much. So she didn't have any missed potential, and she actually did have a point. There was a point to her being here, and that was like setting up like any like being part of the whole Villains Alliance storyline, but not in the same way that Ellie is, in the way that she actually revealed it to everybody. But yeah, Connor actually handled well. I think that Connor is actually kind of handled well in this season. Well, is he? Is he? Honestly, he's kind of mediocre. he's kind of mediocre in the end. Ultimately, he's there to be another just part of Rhea's storyline. He gets more development, and a lot of people were like annoyed by like he ended up like he's not actually a successful guy, and I actually really like that part of his storyline. I think that that's actually a very interesting and actually makes sense for his character. But yeah, Connor, he just kind of was mediocre this season. Yule, I'd say he was actually handled well, but then he ended up getting what he wanted in the end. Like that's honestly the most strange part of Rhea's ending, in that like Yule like gets some money out of the season and actually gets a bit of a happy ending seemingly. And why is that the case? Why does he get a bit of a happy ending? He should not get a happy ending. And because of that, I'm just it's like, what was the point of doing the whole Gret storyline if if you're gonna end it with him actually getting money and actually having a happy ending. He shouldn't get a happy ending. He should, if he isn't gonna get like a bit of a redemption type thing, then he shouldn't get a happy ending. And yet he did. He got some money, and his career wasn't completely destroyed. Yule getting a happy ending in the end, it just completely makes me ask, what was the point of him in this season? I think that it doesn't ruin Gret's storyline, because, I mean, Gret actually grew as a person and actually, like, grew a lot. Yule didn't grow at all. And then he ended up getting validated in what he did, in getting money. So what was the point of his whole storyline here? Tess, straight up mediocre. Not actually handled well. A lot of people like Tess this season. I think that she was just mediocre. She didn't do much of anything. She's in the same vein as Ashley. She was just a support character. She was there to kind of be supportive of other characters. She was there for Gabby's storyline and Ellie's storyline a little bit. And she didn't even have anything else in there as well. She didn't really do anything. You know what? Yeah, ultimately she didn't do anything. What am I talking? What was the point? What was the point of Tess being here? She didn't do anything. People wish that she did something, but she didn't. She didn't do anything. You know, on top, she was freaking missed potential. She should have done something. What the frick did she not? She didn't do anything. Thinking about it, she was just missed potential in the end. Speaking of missed potential, what the frick? What was the point of Lake being here? What was the point of her? But it's such missed potential. It's like, what the frick? How did what missed potential out of the freaking so much missed potential when it comes to Lake? She freaking she should, in my opinion, she was someone that I think should have won this season. She was one of the best options to have win this season, and then they had her be the second boot. And at the time, I was kind of, I wasn't super mad about it, because it was actually a really, interesting and good episode and a good elimination. And, in the end, I wasn't too upset because, second elimination, there were still so many other good options. But by the time we reached the end, there was no good options. And now it's just what was the point in eliminating Lake so early? You didn't have a storyline for her, I guess. What? Lake is, I think, the biggest example of missed potential. She should have come in here and been the main character. Lake, replace Jake with Lake, man. Just, please. She should have won this season, and I don't care. She should have. Allie, I actually handled well. People are so negative towards Allie, and I like Allie this season. Allie's one of the best characters this entire season, and I will stand by that. I think that Allie was just straight up one of the best characters. No doubts about it in my mind. She actually had an arc that actually made sense. Her, constantly being, told that, bro, you're just complaining a lot. What the frick? You're just being an annoying, and you're just being a brat. And then for the whole thing, it was just, she was trying to care what people think, but by the end, she's, realizing, why should I care what people think? My problem, how I feel, does matter. That whole thing that she said at the end of episode 20, right before she got eliminated, which is annoying, was such just a full, circle moment, and, it was just a good way to end her, kind of story. It should have ended with her ultimately, winning. Allie, if Gret wasn't gonna win, it should have been Allie. But, obviously I would have preferred, a Lake or Gabby win, but coming down to, the final 5, if Gret wasn't gonna win, Allie should have won. But Allie, that whole thing where she said, I don't care if people don't like me, my problems matter. I don't care if people think that my problems aren't that big, but what I think matters. And I feel like that was just such a good story for her. And I think that ultimately she ended off this season really good. I think she she did get she's ultimately leaving this season better than she came in. So she was very much handled very well. Hunter, missed potential, I'd say. I wouldn't say what was the point, because I think that there was potential in Hunter being here, especially his whole relationship with Allie, but they just got rid of him super early and then just didn't and just kind of ended that. It helped Allie's storyline, but it just completely wasted all potential that Hunter did have. And I mean, I don't think he really had that much potential, but ultimately he's one of the worst characters this season. On it, like, just one of the just worst characters this entire time. He was just very dismissive of people, and he was just very just not like accepting of like Fiore. His whole thing with Fiore, his whole dynamic with her is so annoying. Like, yeah, we get it. She's not that good in physical challenges, but actually, I've done some research. Not really research, but you guys know, if you guys have actually seen my video about which Total Drama character is the best at challenges, there will be a part 2 to that now soon. I will be updating that whole video with a new one with the new reboot characters, but I did that same thing for Disventure Camp, so that's another thing to be looking at. And honestly, Fiore is one of the best at in challenges, based on stats, obviously. Like, I don't think but like, she proves, based on like her actual record in challenges, she's actually like good at things, and it's like, ooh, come on, Hunter, leave her alone. And yeah. Aiden, what was the point? What was the point of Aiden in this season? I have no clue. I don't know. He made it stupidly long. He's someone who I think just was annoying with his plot armor, and it's funny how that was like the main thing that people were complaining about. Like, that was the plot armor people were complaining about, but now looking at it now with the season being over, Aiden's plot armor is nothing compared to Rhea and Jake's. It's not even funny. So I can't even like be annoyed by him having a lot of plot armor, cause Rhea and Jake were the final two. But what was the point of him this season? I don't understand what the point of Aiden was this season. There was the whole thing with Jake, the whole rivalry with Jake, but it ultimately ended up doing nothing in the end. Like they ended up not liking each other and then ended up becoming friends, but it ultimately didn't do anything in the end. Aiden didn't play any part in it in the end. Aiden did nothing in the end. He became friends with Jake in the seat, like, during their time together. They became kind of friends. I don't know if they're entirely friends still, though, but like, ultimately it didn't lead to anything because, well, Aiden didn't do anything. Jake, that whole situation didn't result in anything for the finale, and it's just like, what was the point of Aiden then? He should have been an early boot. He should have been voted out like really early, in my opinion. So yeah. All right, you know what? We'll go to James here, and I'll say missed potential. He's not a case of Miriam, because he was literally the first boot, and I think James could have had so much more potential this season. I feel like he could have fit in with that villains alliance, him being pulled into that, and the idea of him and Fiore ending up like working together, trying to find a way to flip things to I think James. I just think James would have been a very good inclusion into the villains alliance, and I would have loved that. And I just ultimately, I think James, he shouldn't have been first boot, and I think it made sense for him to be first boot, but I feel like there was still missed potential there. I understand why he was first boot, but you know, I think he could have made it a bit longer, you know, maybe a little longer, please, come on. But yeah, now the final person, the person who won it all, Rhea, and she is worst possible handling. I'm gonna make a whole video about how her ending is actually just dumb. Like the whole, oh, you won, but at what cost? And now you're all alone. That is given the what we know about everything with those characters, that is a genuinely stupid ending for Rhea. And obviously, we got the ending that is the ending that they went for, but the ending just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. But yeah, Rhea is the worst possible handling. I love how the final two are at the literal bottom of this list, and it just shows how stupid, at least in my opinion, how stupid of a final two this was. This was just straight up the worst possible final two we could have gotten. And I will stand by that. There's no worse of a final two. You could not, it couldn't get any worse. And I will stand by that. But Rhea, you know what? Because I'm going to make a whole video about her, I'm not going to really get into things with Rhea. But yeah, she sucked this season. Stupid amounts of plot armor. And yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And I think you can tell by this tier list that there wasn't really much that was really good in this season. The things that I'd consider are good are Gret and Allie, and that's about it. Everything else was at best mediocre, and at worst the most infuriating thing I have ever watched as a part of Disventure Camp. And for anybody who thinks I'm just a hater, I really like Disventure Camp. I like a lot of these characters. And I'm just putting in criticism. I'm allowed to critique a show. For anybody who thinks, oh, if you don't like the show, then just don't watch it. I do like the show. Am I not allowed to not like a singular season of it? You know, but either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.